All right, Matthew, welcome to Module 6, Building a Training Plan, putting it together and getting started. Okay, as an overview for this module, we have recapping the last 5 modules, a debate between Matt and I, 6 steps to a successful training plan, planning around an event and developing a timeline, build, evaluate, and tweak your plan with a skeleton plan, some pro tips, podcast episode, and video resources. So let's get into it. All right, Matt. So we want to recap what we've done so far in the previous 5 modules and really where we are now in terms of putting the plan together. So we started off and we want to introduce energy systems and the importance of aerobic development. And really that just followed on into, power and heart rate, training zones, how to analyze your training after that. Really, those 3 modules all lent itself towards making sure you are always developing that aerobic system. So training zones we can utilize to make sure that we are training the right energy systems, and then we can use our equipment, our sensors, our devices to make sure we're in those zones which represent that aerobic development and those different energy systems. Then we can utilize Training Peaks to analyze those devices, those zones, those energy systems. And from there, we start to put into place like the periodization. So where is the best time to ensure that we can develop aerobically? Because, we've discussed the importance of that across a season or building up to a peak event. And really that leads into now putting it all together. That's kind of how I see it, Matt.
Would we're actually going to put it together. We're actually going to start to build a plan.
Yeah. So you've come this far. It's time to put the plan together.
Okay. Well, I think we need to, this is where I start to have some holdbacks about being a sports scientist, but also being a coach. And it's because when I'm building a training plan, sometimes I feel like I'm not being a scientist. I'm being a bad scientist because I'm combining information and feelings together to put in a training plan to build it. And I feel like I'm not a scientist. What do you think about that?
Yeah, sometimes I place something in a week and you go, what? Am I doing that because I know that athlete will feel better? There's no, it's just feeling based, this is where we get into the art and science of building a training plan. And we put this course together and I said to Matt, I'm not sure if there's enough science in this. And he goes, well, training plans aren't really scientific anyway. And I was like, whoa, I don't know about that. What about everything we've just covered in the previous 5 modules, which then led us to this slide in terms of the debate. When you or I put a plan together, you kind of sometimes you're just thinking about how interesting it's going to be, because for some athletes, it's not all about hitting, specific zones and targets and distances and durations. It is a matter of I want to go out and enjoy my training, but I do want to do it in a structured way. So how much science do they need in their training plan?
How much science do you need to know if someone's having fun or not? That's not scientific at all. And you could do the same thing all the time and you could always have different effects. So motivation, what's the science of motivation along with all the physical aspects?
And placing a rest day on Wednesday because there's school sports in the evening and there's something on in the early morning. It has to be the day where it's your turn on carpool. That's not science.
No.
There's no sign. And is it even a rest day? Whatever. But when you're putting a plan in place around that, that's not sciencey. There's no science based around that. But then the sessions that, preface it and follow it, there is a lot of science put into that individual session.
Yeah, definitely. Everything else needs to be based around science and the evidence that we've seen and a lot of what we've presented so far. So it's not going to be 100% science-based all the time. And I think we've shown that as we've gone through all the other modules. There's a lot of science in there, and then there's a lot of practical things, and then just what we've learned by experience. So you could be a really bad coach by just going off of your feelings all the time. But you could also be a really bad coach by just going off of science all the time. And when you can bring it all together, that's how you are a good coach and you're a good athlete.
That's right. And so within this module, we all work in so many different sports and even the different disciplines, like within a sport. If you just think about mountain biking, how many, new eras of mountain biking there are. So we're not going to get into the how to write a mountain bike week, how to write a triathlon week for a weekend warrior, a pro, and a beginner.